you can't build a financial fortune from the roof down either. You have to have this legal structure, this foundation. I built a foundation for this big time real estate investor. Some of you'd actually know his name. And I charged him a little over $20,000. This was in the late 80s. That was a fair amount of money back then. And he paid me my 20 grand, did the foundation, put some bells and whistles on top of it. The guy goes away happy. 4 or 5 weeks later, the guy shows up sitting across the desk in my law office again, and I'm going, man, what does he want? He says, Lee, I've been thinking about this. This foundation, this legal structure that you talk about. People don't have this foundation. They don't have the legal structure. That's why they don't get rich, isn't it? I said, yeah, I guess so. And he says, no, Lee, you don't understand. You go down, you pay the tens of thousands of dollars, you get the ream of paper, but it doesn't protect anybody. Nobody makes any more money. It doesn't work, Lee. Could you teach people how to set up these legal tools by themselves without the lawyer, and then teach them how to actually use the tools to protect themselves and to make more money? And I said, yeah, I can do that. So I started to speak and I started to write. But there's something else that drives me. You see, I understand you. I understand. I understand when you have a little business. I understand when it goes well. In fact, I understand when it fails. I understand when the IRS seizes your assets, somebody's sick, somebody dies, you get sued. There isn't anything here tonight that we're talking about that I personally haven't been through. And because I've been through it, I can lead you out around the problem a whole lot better than a lawyer who's never been there. You see, I'm not supposed to be an asset protection tax type lawyer. I never dreamed I'd be working in the United States Supreme Court. I'm supposed to be a patent attorney. I have a bachelor's degree in geology and physics, a master's degree in nuclear chemistry, and a doctorate in law. I graduated from law school. I went out one of the highest paid lawyers. I went out and I worked for 3 weeks in the big time patent firm. And at the end of 3 weeks, 10 years of education was gone. Oh, I live in a nice area of the city. Live up on a little hill. My block and the block next to us live 38 MDs. So they call us Little Hill Pill Hill, right? One Sunday, I figure I'm having chest pains. So my wife, Christy, and that's Christy in the, can you see my slides? I don't see my slides up there. Where are my slides, Duncan?
Where are you slides? I don't see them yet, Lee. You should have
Uh,
control of your hands.
let me see if I can, I'm on
You ha-
Zoom.
yeah, you have
Uh,
control. Let me see if I
let
see
me
you.
go
I see.
back out and see if I can come back in and do it again.
Yeah, I have you as co-host on both. Maybe just project, share.
Come on, guys. Register and join. I was telling Duncan earlier, I'm what's called Luddite, Luddite. And it means that I don't like or get along well with new technology.
I'm just gonna make you a
That
host
should
again.
be
There
it.
we go.
All
There we go.
right. I apologize, you guys. I wasn't watching and paying attention. I wanted you to see Christy. That's Christy. And actually, that's Christy too. Christy and I got married when we were 19, and neither one of us ever wanted to be a lawyer. She was going to be a teacher, and I was going to be a scientist. Christy actually became a U.S. Supreme Court counselor also. And we were married for 46 years. So we did pretty good. Anyway, that's Christy and some of the grandkids. And Christy, I figure I'm having chest pains one Sunday night, and Christy gets on the phone and she calls up Mary and Leland. Now, Mary and Leland, they're good friends, live 4 or 5 houses down the hill. Leland happens to be the local cardiologist. So Christy got a hold of Mary, Leland's wife, and she says, hey, Mary, Lee's having chest pains. Could Leland look at him? And Mary said, sure, come on down. So I went down to Leland's house that night, and he looked at me there in the home. And on the way out down the big entry hall, I remember he made a real strange statement to me. He says, "You know, Lee, anytime somebody's seriously ill, they can recover their health. They can go in the hospital, they can recover their health. They're extremely blessed." And I thought, yeah, Leland, I mean, you're the cardiologist. You deal with people who die all the time, understand. And then he said, "Oh, by the way, Lee, I'd like you to check yourself into the hospital tomorrow. Don't go to work. Go to the hospital. I'm going to run a test." So the next day, I'm strapped onto the X-ray machine. Christy, she's up in the control room behind the glass panel with all the radiologists. Three of them live on our block, our street, good friends. And I noticed they take Christy out. Then one of my good friends, radiologist Gary, comes and he stands alongside the X-ray table and he says, "Well, Lee, you're having chest pains." And I thought, well, good, then it's not all in my head, huh? He says, "You've got a tumor. It's a little over 8 inches in diameter. It's around your left kidney. It's crowded up against your heart. Your heart's having a hard time." I said, "Gary, can you take it out? Will they operate on me?" And my friend Gary stood there and he said, "No, no, no, Lee. We've done a CT scan on your entire body now. Lee, you have very advanced cancer. Your cancer now involves all the organs in your body." I said, "Gary, what does that mean?" And my friend Gary stood there and he said, "Lee, we've talked about it. We expect you'll live another 2 to 3 weeks." And that ruins your day. I spent the next 5 months in an isolation intensive care unit at a university hospital. I didn't work for 3 years after that. Do you want to ask me what an illness does to a small or a no financial fortune? I mean, I understand exactly how it works. I'm not talking we were just sick. I'm talking this is a major battle. We're flying drugs from the East Coast to the West Coast in the middle of the night, full life support, the whole 10 yards. I mean, I don't even remember most of it. Uh, I do remember losing my hair, though. Any of you guys, a kid? Help me with it, will you? A kid? A kidda?
You had it right the first time, Akita.
Akita.
Mhm.
Uh, you remember losing your, I mean, with chemotherapy, okay? Not the way you lost your hair. I remember I woke up in the middle of the night, was choking and spitting this hair, and it was all over the pillow. And I got the bed tray and I swung across the bed, and there was a little cosmetic drawer in it. I pulled this little drawer out, and then I just literally took all my hair off and I put it in the little drawer. And for the next few months, people would come into the hospital and they'd say, "Oh, Lee, you've lost your hair." And I'd say, "No, I haven't. It's right here in the drawer." Look, we're talking about how to protect your assets. And when I say asset protection, your knee-jerk reaction is a lawsuit. No, 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 no. 56% of all bankruptcies in the United States are the result of somebody in the family getting sick. That's it. I know that. We lost everything. Christy and the kids, if our parents hadn't stepped in, they literally would have been out on the street. I mean, we're not talking I was just sick. Average cancer patient, 2, 3 treating doctors. I had 53 treating doctors. We received bills from over 250 doctors. That's what we're talking about, and that bankrupts you. And the question is, are you going to lose your real estate investments when somebody in the family gets sick? And the answer for most of you is yeah. You haven't thought of that one. You haven't planned for that one. I planned for it. Christy took care of me for 3 years. Christy got even with me. I took care of her for 5 years. That's Christy a few years back. She's been dead 6 years now. She has a disease called ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, whatever you want to call it. She's totally paralyzed. She's on a ventilator. She can operate the wheelchair. She can do everything by looking at that computer screen. The computer screen literally reads her eyeballs. And it's 100% fatal, but I took care of her for 5 years. And I didn't go to work for 5 years. But 35 years of planning paid off. My business was okay. My real estate investments were okay. My retirement was okay. But if I hadn't been planning for it for 35 years, we would have lost it all again. But the first time we lost it all, I said, it will never happen to me again. And I did not return as a patent attorney. I returned as an asset protection attorney. So that's what drives me. I used the most powerful legal tools that we have available to anybody. Look, there's two sets of laws in the United States. One set that rich people uses and one set that everybody else uses. If you're going to be rich, which set of laws do you have to use? You have to use the rich set of laws. You don't have these legal tools. You don't know how to use them. Even if you've been down and paid the lawyer, you've got your trust, you've got your LLC, your corporation, whatever it is, you don't know how to use it. As a result, 95% don't work. When you actually get in trouble, they don't protect you. Like I said, asset protection, knee-jerk reaction is a lawsuit. 56% of all bankruptcies are the result of somebody in the family getting sick, but that's not your biggest asset protection threat. What's your biggest asset protection threat? A lawsuit is this much of a problem that's this big. What's the rest of this? Your biggest asset protection threat is the IRS, guys. They're taking 20, 30, 40% of everything that walks in the door. Isn't that an asset loss? It's huge. That's your biggest financial hurdle right there. And you don't understand taxes. People don't understand. You think as I go along. Now, has my accountant told me what Lee's telling me? And the answer is going to be no. And I can tell you exactly why he hasn't told you. He will not counsel you, he will not counsel you, because if they take your numbers and they put them in the computer and spit out the taxes, there's zero liability in that. As soon as they start to counsel you, they become liable. And they've learned to keep their mouth shut. Even if your accountant is your best friend, he's not giving you what you need in order to actually cut your taxes. We're going to cut your taxes. I'm serious about taxes in my office. 12 years ago, a young man named Ben Rucker came to me. Ben is a former IRS special auditor, special agent. He's an enrolled agent. And by the way, you do not have a CPA do your taxes. You have an enrolled agent do your taxes. A CPA takes a 3-day test. Of that 3 days, 2 hours is on taxes. An enrolled agent takes a 3-day test, same place the CPA takes his test, except all 3 days are on taxes. Does that give you a difference? So you're going to use an enrolled agent. Now, Ben and I, he's a real estate broker. He's an investor. He's a landlord. I'm an investor. I'm a landlord. We understand how you deal with the IRS, or at least how you need to deal with the IRS. The problem is you get taxed. It's tax. Rent a car. The car rental's $50 a day, but the bill's going to be $100 a day. What's the extra $50? Taxes. They don't even call them taxes anymore. They're just fees now. Look, we didn't have an income tax until 1913. And in 1913, the president, Congress, everybody, they swore on a stack of Bibles 50 feet high, just let us impose it. We had to amend the Constitution. Just let us impose an income tax. We swear it will never go above 8.5%. Do you want to know something about politicians in 1913? They lied just as good as they do today. Within a couple of months, it had gone up to 75%. Then there's that dip over on the left-hand side, came back down, flattened out. That's the 1920s. They called the 20s the roaring 20s. The economy went nuts when the tax came down. Those two hikes up to 63% and 79% on the other side of that dip, that's Herbert Hoover. That's the Great Depression. The economy was sputtering. And Herbert Hoover raised the tax. And that went wham. It put the economy into a death spiral and it didn't recover. I actually remember a clip. I was a kid. I remember a clip of Ronald Reagan. He was an actor. I liked him. And he stood there, and I don't know why I remember this, but I remember him saying, I will never make another movie. I don't make any money. I didn't understand. I do now. During the 50s and 60s, you could literally make $1 million and pay 920,000 of it out in tax. Ronald Reagan as president, or the two jogs down there on the right hand third of the screen, and he dropped it from 70% down to 28%. Everybody said he was nuts. The economy was going to be destroyed. Oh, he's killing us. He's killing us. He collected more tax than anybody in history had ever collected because the economy went nuts. You can't tax your way out of a problem. You have to grow your way out of a problem. That hike up is Clinton. Then it straightens out. Little dip down, that's Bushy. Then it flattens out. Little dip up, that's Obama. Flattens out, little dip down, that's Trumpy on his first term. We now have the one big beautiful bill. I don't care if you like Trump. I don't care if you like the big beautiful bill. We have the big beautiful bill. And it actually put in code, stabilized what Trump did in his first term. That's about all it did. Everything was set to expire at the end of 2025. And he's right. It would have been the highest, the biggest tax increase in history if his first term stuff had expired. The problem is you have no clue what taxes do to you. Watch. If you understood what taxes actually do to you, you would rebel. You would never pay tax. Watch. If I take $1 and double it 20 times, $1, $2, $4, $8, $16, $32, 64, you understand what we're doing? If I double it 20 times, I end up with $1,048,000 in change. So over here, I've got $1,000,000. Now, but wait, there's no tax on that sequence, is there? Everything you do is taxed. Let's tax it at 40%. Fed, state, you guys could be in that bracket. Watch. We're going to take $1 and we're going to double it to 2, but I've got an extra dollar, right? So I have to tax it at 40%. So I don't end up with $2. I have to take 40 cents off the extra dollar, so I end up with $1.60. I double $1.60 to $3.20, but I've got to tax the extra $1.60, so I don't end up with $3.20. I end up with $2.56. You understand what we're doing? So over here, I've got $1,048,000 in change. Over here, I've taken basically 40% of $1,000,000, right? That means I have 600 over here. I've lost $40,000 or $400,000. $400,000 is a lot of money to me, guys. I don't know about you, but that's a lot of money. Oh, really? So you've got 600 over here and $1,048,000 over here. Do I have 600 over here? How much have I got over here? Have I got 400,000 over here? Do I have 200,000 over here? Do I have 100,000 over here? Do I have 50,000 over here? Do I have 25,000 over here? How much money do I have over here? I've got $1,048,000 over here. I've got a grand total of $12,089. That's what taxes do to you. If you're going to be rich, you've got to get out of taxes. And I'm going to tell you, you've made money in real estate, and you don't even understand why you've made money in real estate. You've made money in real estate because that's your best tax shelter. People, investors don't understand that. And you're leaving a lot of money on the table, I can tell you that too. The eighth wonder of the world is compound interest. What you don't understand is taxes are literally compound interest in reverse. They are devastating. Our goal tonight's going to be 20% tax savings. No, you still have to pay taxes. And these guys that are running around saying, oh, we got ways you can put money in a trust and never pay tax on it again. BS. 20% tax savings. And you're sitting there saying, oh, I've got my corporation, I got my LLC, and I'm sure my CPA is getting everything he can with the numbers I'm giving him. There's a statement there. With the numbers I'm giving him. You have to create the numbers every day, all year long. The first question you ask whenever you do a transaction is, what's the tax result? I wrote a column for the doctors. I went out to 400,000 doctors every month. I wrote a column for 10 years. These doctors, they get me on the phone. Lee, how do I make an extra 1% on my return investment? And 1% would be nice, guys. What's the tax? How's it taxed? That's the question. That's the question. Like I say, goal 20%. If you're going to understand how to cut taxes, you're going to have to understand a concept called adjusted gross income, AGI. About 20% of you understand it or know a little bit about it. The other 80% of you don't know. You just don't know. Now, the problem is you can't control your AGI. There's nothing you can do to control AGI. Your little company controls AGI. So you're going to have to learn to use your little company as a tax shelter. But no accountant's ever brought you in, put his arm around you and said, we need to teach you how to use your little company as a tax shelter. Anybody ever had that experience? No. They never do that. We've got to figure out what to do with your little company. Now, I'm going to just cut to the chase. I'm not going to argue with you. Your little company is going to be an LLC. I've got a system for you in 2 hours a year. I can make it so that it protects you. And yet 90% of them fail when you get into court. The LLC the guy gives you, the lawyer gives you, it's okay. It's not as good as it could be, but it's okay. And by the way, you can set up your own LLC, and I'll almost guarantee 80% of the time you can do it better than the guy down the street that you paid $3 or $4 grand for. They're not hard to set up. They're easy. The issue is, what do I do with it? So I'm going to teach you how to use it. Now, I'm going to tell you that if you have a corporation, you are going to change it this week, to an LLC. You will not have a corporation. If you have a corporation with real estate, the answer is no and hell no. Any other questions? You will change it to an LLC. Because an LLC gives you twice as much asset protection as a corporation. And it gives you a lot better flexibility in taxes. There's no need, 98% of the time, there is no need for a corporation. And in fact, if you've got one, get rid of it. It's easy. You go to your state website, they have a form, you fill it out, and you change it to an LLC. You do not have to get a new EIN number, nothing. One form at the state, that's it. LLC for taxes, okay, they're the most flexible. I told you that. The problem is your accountant, your lawyer guy or legal doom or whoever it is, they write this document for asset protection. And you're going, yeah, I want them to do that. Yeah, but it also has to be written for the taxes. You've got to prepare for war with the IRS. And what that piece of paper says makes a huge difference as to what you do, what you can do, what you can't do. I had a California businessman. He actually runs an ad agency in LA. He's got about 100 employees, a pretty good shop. And he and his partner have run this ad agency for decades as a partnership. And somebody got to them, they listened to a seminar, some wacko lawyer or something, and they thought, well, maybe we ought to get an LLC. So they went down to Legal Doom and they got an LLC. Is Legal Doom's LLC legal? Absolutely. The problem is, it is one size fits all, basically. It's got to fit everybody. So it's stripped down, but it's okay. It's legal. And these guys in the ad agency, about 6 months after they set up the LLC, they actually did get sued. It took exactly 25 minutes for the opposing team to get into court and argue. Your Honor, yeah, they've got an LLC. We can ignore the LLC. We can sue these guys personally. And the judge said, yeah, you're right. What happened? Well, a lot of things happened. They got me on the phone and they said, Lee, it didn't work. You're supposed to be the best. How do we do this? And I actually made them go through the course I have. And then we sat down and we restructured it for them. And I haven't heard from them in about 15 years. I think that means they're okay. If I don't hear from you, you're okay. I hear from you if there's a problem. And I don't like to hear from you, so I'm going to make sure you do it okay, right? But what had happened is they got their LLC, cool, great LLC. They never went back and notified all of their prior clients that they were not dealing with them as a partnership anymore. They were dealing with an LLC now. I've dealt with you for 20 years. You were a partnership. Unless you notify me, I have the right to continue to think that you are a partnership, and that's the way I'm going to deal with you. So I go through. There are lots of things you have to do when you set up the LLC, and each year as you go along, you got to do stuff. You've got to deal with people in certain ways. The vast majority of them fail. Like I said, 90% of them. And the accountants don't show you what to do, so nobody ever makes any more money. And yet they're your tax shelter. I have a system for you. It's 6 steps. We're going to go through the system, and I'm going to teach you about each one of these steps, okay? 1, we're going to identify whether or not you really need an LLC. 2, we're going to establish the LLC in the proper state. 3, we're going to decide what structure you want for taxes. 4, we're going to create your operating agreement. Notice we didn't create the operating agreement till way down the line. 5, I'm going to teach you how to maintain this company as you go along. And 6, we're going to get double asset protection for you. Anybody want to go through that system? Yes or no? Watch. It's easy. The system's actually called the LLC Wizard. I have it for you in a notebook. And you don't read the notebook. These are all legal documents. And then, as we go along, there's a CD for each one of the chapters. And I sit you down and I explain the legal documents to you, show you how to set them up, show you how to use them. No, we don't have CDs anymore. It's all in the cloud, guys. All of the documents are on, they're actually on Word. So you can use them, you can deal with them, they're easy. But you listen to me and I go through and I teach you about them. I show you what to do. Step 1, do we need an LLC? We're going to use it for asset protection, or we're going to use it for taxes. So the question is, do I need the protection? Do I need the tax advantage? I've got a questionnaire for you in the LLC Wizard, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to have you fill out the questionnaire. Then I'm going to put you on a business matrix, and we're going to decide whether you need an LLC or not. I just told you 98% of the time you're going to use an LLC. Now, the assumption is use the LLC. I've already told you if you've got real estate in a corporation, the answer is no and hell no. Get it out of the corporation. Change the corporation to the LLC. The second step is we're going to organize the LLC. We're going to use our state's website. Which state do you want it in? The websites are easy. Well, they're not easy. They're easy because I've broken them down for you. There's South Dakota. Let's see. You guys are in Massachusetts, right? Oh, well, there's North Carolina. If you're down in North Carolina, there you are. There's one for Massachusetts. I've got each state, the website, the state, where you go, how much it is, what you do. I have to update these every year because I'm stunned at how many times the state changes their websites. So we go to the state. I show you exactly what to do. Now, here's the issues. Which state? You're going to do it in Wyoming because Wyoming is private, right? No and hell no. I don't care about privacy. If you think there's privacy today, you've got another thing coming. I mean, I did years ago, I set up an asset protection plan for a guy. He called me up, wanted an asset protection plan. So I said, okay. And I'd propose things to him. No, can't do that. I'm off the grid. That'd put me on the grid. I'm not doing it. Finally, I got mad enough at this guy. And I'll give you, it cost me $60. And I'll give it to you that I have access to databases that you don't. But I came back with a 30-page printout on this guy. I had every wife he'd ever had. I had every house he'd ever lived in. I had every phone number he'd ever had. I had his credit card information. I had his wife's mother's maiden name. I had his social security. I had everything. The catch was I could only start with an address. That was the deal. Does the tenant know the address? I don't care if it's in a land trust. I don't care if it's in an LLC. I don't care where it is. Does the tenant know the address where they live? Yeah. Using only the address, I came back with this information. I faxed it all. This is before scans. I faxed it off to the guy and didn't hear back from him for about 3 days. He finally called me up and he says, okay, Lee, anonymity doesn't work. Off the grid doesn't work. What do we do now? I mean, I can tie you to your piece of real estate 6 ways to breakfast. I can tell you who paid the taxes. I can tell you who buys the insurance. I can tell you everything about that piece of property. So anonymity is an answer, no. And I don't care if your LLC is in Wyoming, your property is in Boston. If your property's in Boston, you have to have a Massachusetts LLC, not a Wyoming LLC. Why do they promote the Wyoming LLC? Oh, taxes. No tax in Wyoming. No tax in Nevada. Actually, there is, but, they're saying no tax, no tax. I don't care. Where do you pay the tax? You pay the tax in Massachusetts. That's where you earned your money. You still have to file a Wyoming tax return that says 0. But all of the money is in Massachusetts. That's where you pay the tax. I don't give a damn whether you've got a Wyoming LLC or not. Wyoming has better laws. So you go to Wyoming and set it up. I got news for you guys. You've got your piece of rental property in Massachusetts. You either bring that Wyoming company and register it in Massachusetts. By the way, the cost of registering it is exactly the same as the cost of setting up the LLC originally in Massachusetts. I'm now paying the dudes in Wyoming for their LLC. I'm paying them $50 or $100, $150 a year to have them act as my registered agent. The registered agent, the only thing they do is they accept service from the sheriff if you get sued. So the guy in Wyoming does exactly 0, and you're paying him $150 a year. Good deal. You register that Wyoming LLC in Massachusetts. If I figure I'm your tenant, I figure out that this is owned by a Wyoming LLC that's not registered in Massachusetts, guess what? I ain't paying my rent. And there isn't a damn thing you can do about it. Because a Wyoming citizen has no rights in Massachusetts. You have a Wyoming company, they have no rights in Massachusetts until you register them in Massachusetts. Cost, same. And there's a little bippy. When you register that Wyoming LLC in Massachusetts, Massachusetts requires one, a registered agent. You're going to be the registered agent. This guy's not going to be the registered agent in Massachusetts. Oh, you could hire somebody and pay them $150 too. When you get sued, they serve that guy. They're never going to serve the guy in Wyoming because if I'm your tenant and I'm suing you in Massachusetts. I don't care about Wyoming. You're in Massachusetts. And when you registered that company in Massachusetts, they had you sign that said, you're playing in Massachusetts sandbox, you're playing by Massachusetts rules. I don't give a damn what Wyoming rules are. Your judge is going to be in Massachusetts. The lawsuit's going to be in Massachusetts. You're going to play by Massachusetts law. You can't give me a reason why you have a Wyoming LLC. Can't do it. And there's a company going around. They're down the street from me down here. They're called Vail. I'll just tell you who they are. And for $3,000, or excuse me, $6,000, they'll give you 3 LLCs in Utah. I'm licensed in Utah. We have the crappiest LLC laws in the United States. Why would you want if you've done that, I just have to look at you and I have to say, I'm sorry, you've wasted your money. Cut your losses, get rid of those Utah, quit paying the guys in Utah, and they'll go away. That's the only thing I can do for you. How many LLCs do you have? Well, one for each company, each piece of property, right? The concept is, if I'm walking down the street and I get my wallet picked, I'm through, right? But if I've taken some of the money out and put it in my front pocket, then if I lose my wallet, I don't lose it all. Okay. Oh, that's a good idea. What you do is you take some of the money out, you put it in your front pocket. You take some of the money out, you put it in your shoe under the sole. And I've actually done that, put my $100 bill under the sole of my shoe in Europe before. You put some down your underpants, some in your money belt. You stuff some down your bra. I look really good in a bra, guys. But the problem with that is, if you go into 7-Eleven to buy a Slurpee, you've got to undress to make change. I had 2 doctors in Long Beach, California, call me up a number of years ago. They said, Lee, this real estate guru guy came to us and he said, you've got to have a separate LLC for each one of your properties. And we have 53 properties. He set up 53 LLCs for us. And he only charged us $5,000 each for 53 LLCs. And then he said, by the way, we're going to have the LLCs in Utah. This isn't Vail. This is another guy in Utah. We're going to have the LLCs in Utah. I'm not only a lawyer, I'm an accountant. You 2 doctors, you're really busy. So I'll do the accounting. I'll just issue UK ones. And he only charged him $1,500 per 53 LLCs. These 2 doctors, they get me on the phone and they say, Lee, we're not worried about asset protection anymore. Our lawyer has all of our money. How do we get out of this? So don't let them shove you overboard. They'll put as many of these in place as you will let them. I have I'm a little guy, okay? I'll tell you that. I've got 12 doors. No big deal, right? I have 3 LLCs. I can't manage 12 LLCs. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Okay, you got a dozen eggs. You put 1 egg in each of 12 baskets. The problem is you can't walk down the street carrying 12 baskets. You're going to start dropping them. The same thing happens with your LLCs. So be reasonable. The strip mall goes in one. The 2 Section 8s go in a second one. The big high end, the 2 high ends go in a third one. The 6 unit goes in a fourth one. Here's my rule: $1 million in equity. Let's say that. Be reasonable, okay, guys? So we've decided we needed an LLC. We've set up the LLC, and here's my statement. Write it down. You set up the LLC in the state where you do business or where you own the property. End of discussion. There's no other discussion. Now, if I own property in Massachusetts and I own some in North Carolina, well, I could set up my company in Massachusetts and register it in North Carolina. Cost is the same. Problem's the same. I'd set up a North Carolina and a Boston. Then I've got 2 pockets. There's no more work in having the North Carolina and the Boston. It's the same as if I registered Boston and North Carolina. You understand? So, just do it that way. Set it up. Which state? Now we're going to decide taxes. How are you going to have this baby taxed? Well, we're going to cut your taxes. I told you have to do AGI, adjusted gross income. Why worry about it? Well, it basically controls whether or not you can do your Roth IRA. And I know you can do a backdoor and all that crap. It determines your tax bracket. And the accountant just said, Phillips, you're an idiot. That's taxable income. Well, yeah, but it's basically AGI. Itemized deductions. Do they phase out? Are they gone? Child care credits. Do you lose those? Alternative minimum tax. Now, you're not nearly as worried about alternative minimum tax as you used to be. And you may hate Trump, but let me tell you this one. Before 2017, when he passed his laws, and he didn't have enough votes in Congress to make these laws permanent, so that I told you they were going to sunset at the end of 2025. One thing he did was he changed the base on the alternative minimum tax. The AMT, alternative minimum tax, was passed in 1958 to make sure that the rich paid their fair share. Well, in 1958, $80,000 was rich. They did not index it for inflation. In 2016, if you made over $80,000, basically, there's some wiggle room, but basically $80,000, your taxes were literally calculated using an alternative mathematical equation to make sure that you paid more tax. 80 grand, guys. Your accountant never even bothered to tell you in 2016 that you were paying AMT. He just put it in the computer and it spit out the AMT calculation. Whether you like Trump or not, he raised that from 80 grand for a couple to about 400,000 for a couple. That's a big deal. That saved you a ton of money. You may not realize it, but that saved you a ton of money. The big, beautiful bill kept it at about 400 grand. 199A. 199A was passed in 2017 in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, Trump's first act. And what it says, what happened is Trump lowered the income tax for corporations, C corporations. He lowered it to a flat 21%. It was 35%. It was all over the map, depending on how much you made. He lowered it to 21%. He gave the big guys a big break. The little guys, me and you, we went to him and said, hey, what about us? He said, okay, here's the deal. You take your net profit. You take your profit loss, get your net profit, okay? Take 20% off of that, write yourself a check. That's tax-free. We ignore that. That's 199A. Now, this is for little businesses. Here's the problem with real estate. And Ben and I sit down and we go through real estate taxation for a couple of hours with you. Actually, we've done a whole course, which is 7 hours. But your accountant isn't giving you 199A. If you ask them, they will say, no, real estate isn't 199A. Real estate is passive income. Well, I don't give a damn whether it's passive income or not. The question is your real estate a business? That's the only question. And if you participate, if you find the deals, if you play with the renters, if you advertise for your rent, if you participate, this is a business. Once I establish it as a business, I get 20% of my profit, whether it's passive income or not, I get 20% tax-free. I guarantee I just made 70% of you in this room a bunch of money this year. Because your accountant has told you it's passive income. It's not a business. Like hell it's not. It's a business if you participate in it. And if your accountant won't back down on that statement, you get another accountant. End of discussion. Because this is big bucks, guys. You've got to understand what above the line and below the line accounting is. The line is the adjusted gross income line, the AGI line. Now, you can't do anything above the line. Your little company and your real estate are above the line. That's why they're tax shelters. Ben and I do a 2-day boot camp, and we take no more than 30 people, and we sit you down for 2 days, and we go through and show you step by step asset protection, taxes. Ben talks about taxes from the dark side. Ben's been special agent, special auditor at the IRS for 8 years. He understands the IRS. And it's very interesting to see how the IRS selects their audits, how they do this, how they do that. Taxes from the dark. It's actually very interesting. The problem is your accountant dude and your financial advisor dude, they all work below the line. Your mortgage deduction, your medical, your charitable, all that's below the line. You can't get above the line. So there's nothing you can do. And they don't understand above the line and below the line accounting. Ben and I have prepared a set for you. It's called the Advanced Tax Tactics. We update it. We didn't have to update it this year because Biden didn't actually do anything to the taxes. And what Trump did stayed in place. So we're okay. We're good. But it teaches you to work above the line. It's 5 hours of audio instruction, plus a bunch of documents that we refer to. That's what's in the notebook, the 100-page notebook. But the goal is to cut your taxes 20%. And I'm talking taking a dentist that has $400,000 in income and cutting it down to under $150,000. I'm not talking about a $20 deduction for your computer. That ain't it. We've got to hit it hard. This is a little cutesy. It's a giveaway. But I'm going to pay for your vacation to Disneyland. I'm going to pay for your part of your real estate investing. Watch. I'm going to combine real estate and business. Nobody's ever taught you that. 280 AG, this is black and white letter law. Your accountant knows about it. Your accountant has never told you about it. If you do it, your accountant's going to say, oh, you can't abuse it. Well, I know you can't abuse it. Don't abuse it. No, 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 no. But what it says is I can rent my residence. That's my house. If I rent it for no more than 14 days a year, any rental income that I get is tax-free. How do you rent your business? Well, or excuse me, how do you rent your house? Well, I'm going to, I haven't ever had Duncan down. I have a beach house on Siesta Beach, nicest beach in the United States. And I have people like Duncan down all the time. I've had lots of people that you know, a lot of people you know, down to my place on Siesta Beach. And I charge $2,000 a day to rent my place. The problem is these guys are too cheap. They won't pay me $2,000. Now, is $2,000 reasonable? Well, the back of the Hyatt door down the street is $1,700 a day. I got a picture of it. If the auditor ever asks me, there's the picture. I feed them lunch, breakfast, and dinner, so I'm charging $2,000. Now, who pays the $2,000 when Duncan comes down and visits me? I write out a bill. I literally write out a bill, and I send it to my company. My company pays the $2,000 a day. Now, that comes out of my company as a tax-deductible expense. It is not 1099 to me. It's not W-2 to me. It just comes as a check to me. Now, if I'm audited, I've got to have the bill. I've got to show them what it is. I've got to show them it's reasonable. So, could you meet with your real estate agent in your house and charge your real estate business $400 or $500 to meet with your real estate agent? Go down to the Marriott, go to the Courtyard Marriott, see what it is to rent a boardroom for your meeting and feed the guy lunch. Get him to give you an estimate. You keep that estimate. That's what you charge your company for the meeting and feeding the guy lunch. Could you charge your company to shoot your YouTube videos at your house, your advertisement? There are dozens and dozens of ways that your business can use your real estate. Do you see it? Anything, I can get 14 bills a year, but any of that is 100% tax-free, 100% deductible for my company. That's a little giveaway. It's easy, not a big deal, but gosh, we could give you $2,000-$3,000 extra to spend this year. How many of you like $2,000 this year? It's piece of cake, guys.
Is that, can I ask, is that just on your residence or is that also can be a non-residence?
Well, it is on your residence, but you're not going to use it on your rental property because you got to rent your rental property more than 14 days a year, right?
Okay.
The property can't be rented anywhere for more than 14 days a year. Residence is considered someplace you can eat and sleep. Can you eat and sleep in a motorhome? Can you eat and sleep on a boat? So it has kind of a broad definition. There's a reason for this law. I'm not going to go into it today. We go into it in the advanced tax tactics for you, and so you understand why it's there and what happens. The problem is you've got your LLC. Okay, we decided we needed an LLC. That was step one. Step two, we set up the LLC in the proper state. Step three, we decided what tax we were going to run. Now, we haven't really talked about the taxes in the LLC, but you can tax your LLC anywhere, any way you want. So you can do whatever you want with it. You can have it taxed as under subchapter S. You can have it, and if you've got real estate, the answer is no. Rental real estate, no. Flipping, yes, subchapter S. So you have to understand what the difference in partnerships and sub S's are and that sort of stuff. But I talk to people all the time in live events. They come up to me, I got an LLC. Question, do you have an operating agreement? No, the LLC was $150 to set it up on the internet. They wanted another $800 for the operating agreement, so I didn't do that one. Well, buddy, you ain't got no operating agreement. You ain't got no asset protection. I'll guarantee it. And it isn't one size fits all asset protection. What are you doing? I'm going to go in the LLC wizard. I'm going to teach you how to put what we call poison pills in your operating agreement. It makes it very unpleasant for somebody to try and take over your LLC. We shift taxes to them. We do all sorts of things. You don't have a membership log in your LLC. You've never issued membership certificates. You don't have resolutions of meetings. I'm going to ask you those 3 questions when I get you in court. And you're going to say no, no, no. I'm going to turn to the judge and I'm going to say, Your Honor, they didn't treat this company as a real company. I don't have to treat it as a real company either. This is a partnership or a sole proprietorship. I can sue these guys personally. And the judge is going to say yes. That's the way 90% of them end up. I ask people all the time when they come up to me at the live events, how's your LLC taxed? I don't know. Well, if they're taking 40% of everything that walks in the front door, don't you maybe think you might ought to know how it's getting done? Maybe you could do something else. They don't make any more money. There's no asset protection. There's no more money. In 90% of the LLCs, they don't work. We figured out we need taxes, okay? Now, number 1, we need an LLC. Number 2, which state? Number 3, how are we going to tax it? Let me give you a hint, okay, on the taxation. If it is passive income, that's rents, you're going to have it taxed as a partnership. If it's earned income, that's flips, or that's selling goods and services, my legal work. I'm going to have it taxed as a subchapter S. So basically, that's your 2 rules, okay? I got to draft the operating agreement. Now, Legal Doom will give you a 5-page operating agreement. Is that legal? Absolutely. But I don't think it's enough. The object of an operating agreement is to address the issues that are going to come up in the operation of your company. 5 pages isn't enough to address the common issues. I'm going to say between 20 and 40 pages. Now, there's a guy running around, he's got a kit for you, and he's got a 150-page operating agreement. You don't want a 150-page operating agreement. Your operating agreement is your rule book. I get you in court. I demand, I get your operating agreement. That's easy. And I'm going to read your operating agreement. And it says, the manager does this. The member does this. We hold a meeting on this date. Blah, 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 blah. The bank account's approved. The loan has to be approved. Okay, you got a loan on this piece of real estate. Your tenant's suing you. Where's the documentation that your LLC approved that loan? I don't have that. Your Honor, they didn't treat this like a real company. I don't have to treat it like a real company. I get to sue this guy personally. And the judge says, yeah. So you've got to do these things, guys. We've got to address the issues. We don't want 150 pages worth of rules. I can't do that. 20 pages worth of rules, okay, I can do it. In fact, I go in, I say, okay, go get your existing operating agreement. I'm going to teach you how to read the operating agreement. And then we're going to make a plan as to how you comply with it. It's a system. I show you step by step how to do it. It's easy. It's going to take you an hour once. That's all, just once. But I'm going to guarantee after that that we get the asset protection that you need. We're going to pick two. What does pick two mean? Well, we have to describe the taxes. Pick two. 1977, the LLC was created in Wyoming. And the first question was, we created this new animal. Mr. IRS, it's not a corporation. It's not a partnership. How are you going to tax it? The IRS immediately came back and said, looks like a corporation to us. How do we know it's not a corporation? By law, a corporation has 4 elements. It has the limited liability shield. Can't sue me. Got to sue the company out here. I'm protected. Has centralized management. That means that the management is centralized in the management team, not in the owners. Management, a director of a corporation does not have to be an owner of the corporation. It has continuity of life. That's not the term of the company. 20 years, in perpetual. No. That means if one of the owners dies, the company doesn't die. And it has transferability. I can sell the stock. By law, a corporation has those 4 elements. And you can't find 1 out of 100 lawyers that can tell you the 4 elements of a corporation. We never study it. It doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. The IRS says, how do we know it's not a corporation? And Wyoming said, okay, here's what we're going to do. By law, an LLC gets 2 of those 4. Only 2. Which 2 do you want? Pick any one you want. Well, you're going to pick the corporate shield, duh, right? I want the corporate protection. Which one of the other 3? I don't care. Now, you can go out to anybody walking up and down the street in front of my office. You approach them. You give them this name. Any adult out on the street. They'll tell you exactly who that person is. The patriarch of the family is dying. And the daughter actually comes to me. And she says, Lee, we've got the best law firms in the state. We've got the best accounting firms in the state. Dad's going to die this week. And he did die 5 days later. Would you just look at everything and make sure it's going to be okay? I said, okay, I'll do that. So I said, there's a large LLC. Daddy owns most of it, and then each one of the kids owns a chunk of it. I said, okay, I have to see the operating agreement. They can't find the operating agreement. I mean, it's all hands on deck. We've got to have the operating agreement. 2 days later, they found it. Do you know where they found it? At the accountant's office. The accountant has to read the operating agreement. The lawyer will never read the operating agreement. The accountant has to read it because it has to describe the taxes. Your operating agreement does not describe your tax structure. I'll almost guarantee it. Because it was put in place simultaneously with your creating of the company. The lawyer did all the paperwork at once. He never asked you how it was going to be taxed. But I get the operating agreement and I start to read. Which 2 of these 4 elements do they have? Well, if they don't have continuity of life, that means instantly upon Dad's death, this company's gone. Now, we can reconstitute it. We're not going to miss a heartbeat. We'll be okay. But I start to read. No continuity of life. That's not one of the 2. That means when Dad dies, company's gone. But I start asking questions. Where's that kid? Where's that kid? What does he do? Where's that kid? What does she do? She died 3 years ago? At that point, I've got your operating agreement. I got you in court, and I sit you down and I say, okay, Your Honor, this child, this member died 3 years ago. By definition of law, this company ceased to exist 3 years ago. It is not an LLC. It is not a corporation. This is a partnership. I can sue every one of these people individually. Now, company wasn't sued in the 3 years. We redid it. Everything's fine. We were okay. But can you see how it's going to come down when I sue you? I don't care which. Well, centralized management. Here's the issue. You've asked the lawyer, should it be member managed or manager managed? And the guys looked at it and said, that doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, because if you picked manager managed, you just picked centralized management. And then you thought it was a good idea that if a member died, the company didn't die. So you picked continuity of life. You now have 3 of those elements. I get you into court and I say, Your Honor, by definition, 2 elements is a LLC. By definition, 4 is a corporation. These guys have got 3. They don't have an LLC. They don't have a corporation. Your Honor, they have a partnership. And the judge says, yeah, you're right. So these make a difference. We've got to set up the operating agreement properly. And by the way, I go in and I've got almost 3 hours of instruction on the operating agreement. And I've got different paragraphs for you. You can choose this 5.3 or this 5.3. And on the audio discussion, I give you the difference between the 2. I'm not going to let you pick 3 of the 4. But I've got different paragraphs all throughout this. And so you can customize the operating agreement for yourself. Once you've got the company set up in the right state, you've figured out the taxes, you've written the operating agreement, now we have to follow the formalities. What has happened is over the decades, the courts have said, okay, this is the way you operate a company. And when you get into court, the whole argument is, Your Honor, this isn't a real company. I can sue these people directly. That's the whole argument right there. And the law, the courts over the decades have said, okay, if you hold your meetings, if you take your minutes, if you have your membership log, if you actually issue certificates, then you do all of these things, it's a real company. I've got a system for you, and I'm going to say it's going to take you no more than 2 hours a year. Would you do 2 hours a year for me to guarantee that you've got the asset protection you want when you get sued? Yes or no? Nod your heads. I want to hear them rattle. Yep, I can hear them rattling around in there. So you've got to follow these rules. Now, Christy died. I had to take Christy off of the LLCs, because if she's still on the LLCs and I get sued, we're through. So I have to play the game. I've remarried. I have not put my new wife on the LLCs. She doesn't have anything to do with my finances, my investments. I have nothing to do with hers. And I've written her a trust, says that we have separate lives. Christy and I always had separate lives. We never owned anything in common. Everything was split between us. Because if I get sued, you can't get her assets. So love has nothing to do with who owns what. And, you know, I did get remarried. It's been 4 years. People have harassed me. My buddies have said, Phillips, why did you bother to get remarried? You're too old. No, no, I'm not too old. Yeah, you're too old. You can't do anything. Why bother? No, no, I can do stuff. What do you mean? Well, you can't have sex. You're too old. No, I can have sex. Yeah, sure, Phillips. No, no, no. We have sex almost every night. No way, Phillips. You don't have sex every night. Yeah, we do. We have sex almost on Monday night and almost on Tuesday night and almost on Wednesday night. And it's a joke, guys. You'll get it in a minute. But at any rate, you've got to follow these formalities and you've got to prove. Now, it's not overwhelming. I told you 2 hours a year, right? And you haven't been doing this. I understand that. You can't go back. Well, you could go back, but that is overwhelming. You do not backdate documents. That's called fraud. I can report on the meeting I had 2 years ago and sign it today. But I don't do that. You're just going to go forward and do it right. That's not overwhelming. And when you get sued 3 years from now, the judge says, where's all your minutes? Well, you've only got 3 years worth of stuff. Well, yeah, but I didn't know how to do this, and I listened to some idiot lawyer, and he told me what to do, and so I've been doing it. I really want a real company. And the judge will say, yeah, you're right. Okay, you're trying it. You're doing it. So just get it and go forward. Oh, one other thing. I show you in here step by step how to move a piece of property into an LLC. The first thing you ask whenever you move a piece of property or an asset, the first question is, what's the tax? Now, the real estate gurus, they say, oh, you got to have a LLC for each one of your rental units. Okay. How do I get it in the LLC? How do I get my property into the LLC? Well, you make out a quitclaim deed and move it over to the LLC. No, you do not make a quitclaim deed. You make out a warranty deed. And I explain all this in detail. You make out a warranty deed because you want the warranties to transfer over to the LLC. Now, if you're doing living revocable trust, you're going to make out a quitclaim deed because the living revocable trust is you. But the LLC is a different entity. It's a third party. I'm the third party. I want any warranties possible. Okay, you make out a deed. You move the asset here to there. Now what do? You don't do anything. That was it, right? One, you've just triggered the due on sale clause. Yeah. There's really no way around that. However, I will tell you that Fannie has come out and said any Fannie money in this deal, they move it into a LLC, no problem. That does not trigger the due on sale. I'm going to say you can move it in and not trigger the due on sale if the ownership of the property has two members, right? The same two members in the same proportion in the LLC. If the ownership mirrors each other, I'm going to say I don't think the banks are going to bother you. But if it doesn't, yes, they are going to bother you. So, did I trigger the due on sale clause? Oh, wait. I get you into court. I'm going to get you into court. And the first thing I'm going to do is say, okay, the rental unit is in the LLC. How did you get the rental unit in? I deeded it over. Oh, really? Okay. What did you get back in exchange for deeding it over? You didn't get a damn thing back, did you? Your Honor, they know that this company is a scam. Hell, I'm not giving a $400,000 piece of property to you unless I get a note or I get stock in your company or I get something that says I got a $400,000 equity in this company. They didn't do any of that. Your Honor, they know that this company is just them. It's their alter ego is what we call it. They know it's just them. I can pierce the corporate veil. I can sue these people personally. because nobody in their right mind is going to move a $400,000 piece of property and not have something to show for it. They know it's just them. It's not really a third party. And the judge every time is going to say, yeah, you're right. So you got to play the game, guys. I've got full checklists for you, samples of the meeting minutes. And by the way, first time I ever acted as corporate secretary, man, I'd been to college for 10 years. I had 18 typewritten pages worth of notes. I sent these notes off to an old friend lawyer of mine, and the old guy took me over to the corner and he says, Phillips, and I got a tongue lashing. He said, son, your notes, they're no good. So I go in and I show you how to take minutes in a meeting, personnel area, finance area, planning area. Look, the art of a lawyer is to be able to write something so that it doesn't say anything. It's absolutely true, guys. I've got to teach you how to write your minutes. And by the way, this is what I did not learn in law school. You ain't going to learn it in law school. It's not on the internet. This is what I've learned by experience, and I've got to show you what to do. Step 6, we're going to double your asset protection. And I'm going to prevent what I call a domino effect. In 2008, 9, 10, I saw real estate investors lose 30 pieces of property. This piece of property would go bad. They would give it back to the bank. The bank would sell it. There was a deficiency. They would come to the owner and demand the deficiency. Now, wait a minute. This is in a corporation. By the way, in 2008, you didn't have LLCs. You weren't using them. Why? Because in 2006, we finally got a uniform act. The lawyers then knew what to do with an LLC. Until 2006, we didn't know what to do with an LLC. We didn't know how to tax it. 1977, Wyoming asks the IRS, how do you want it taxed? It takes the IRS 20 years to do anything. 1997, 20 years later, the IRS came back and said, we don't care how you tax it, you choose. Check the box. So everybody had their corporations, and it's in the corporation, but the corporation protects me from what happens in the company. So how can the mortgage company come back to me for the deficiency? Anybody? I feel like Ferris Bueller. Huh? Anybody? Anybody? I guaranteed the mortgage. I'll guarantee you guaranteed the mortgage. So they come back to you. Then they go to the next piece of property. They take that piece of property. They sell it. There's still a deficiency. They come back to you. And I saw people lose 30 pieces of property. Just went right down the line. The domino effect. Now, the corporation has the corporate shield. Can't sue me. I got my corporate shield. Right? The LLC is a marriage of a corporation and a partnership. It got the DNA from the daddy corporation for the corporate shield. The corporate shield is identical to the corporate shield in a corporation. The limited liability, we call it. What did the LLC get from the mommy partnership? Partnerships don't have any asset protection, do they? That's not right. They do. Most lawyers can't tell you that they do, but they do. They have a concept. I'm going to have to give you a 5-minute, 2-second history lesson, okay? 400 years ago in England, the only type of business there was a partnership. So me and Joe and Gus, we go into business together. Gus gets in trouble. He gets sued. And I don't know how you got sued 400 years ago in England. You didn't pay the king. You hit somebody with your horse. You got divorced. That was there. Gus got sued. His creditors, the guy suing him, got a judgment against him. They took away his partnership. Now, me and Joe, we now have a new partner. By definition, the new partner can sell the company. They can do whatever they want with it. But wait a minute. Me and Joe, we spent 30 years of our life making this company. We didn't get in trouble. Gus got in trouble. This isn't fair. We lost everything we'd worked our whole life for, and we didn't do a thing wrong. And the Brits said, yeah, that's not fair. So they passed a law, 1890, that said a partnership, when the guy gets sued, when Gus gets sued, they can't take away his partnership interest. They have to go back to court. They get a judgment against him. They go back to court and they ask for an order which charges the debt that Gus owes these guys against the partnership. It's called a charging order. And what it says is the creditor can't come and get his partnership interest. They can't come and sell the partnership out from under me and Joe. They can't tell us how we're going to manage the partnership. We get to do whatever we want. In fact, we still like Gus. We'll still hire him and pay him. But they can't tell us what to do. They have, in legal terms, they have what's called an economic lien against our partnership. And so if our partnership declares a profit, Gus doesn't get it anymore. His creditors get it. That's very powerful asset protection. Because look, if I have my rental unit and my wife gets sick, my rental unit is in an LLC. LLCs have charging order protection. I declare bankruptcy because my wife ran up so many medical bills. They can't get my rental unit. Can you see it, guys? This protects the assets of the company from what happens to the individuals that own the company. I've seen more people lose big time because they take away the assets of the company when the guy gets in trouble. Somebody's sick. He makes a bad real estate investment. It takes him under. Blah, 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 blah. This piece of real estate in this LLC is protected. Can you see what I'm saying? Somebody nod your head again. This is a big deal, guys. Did you see it, Hector? Did you see it, Duncan? This is huge. We're protecting the assets of the company. I have a good friend who's actually was my high school class president. He spent his whole life building a business. It's a 50 employee type business, or was. And he got to be pretty well off, and he started to invest in real estate. He was comfortable. He was making more money. He liked the real estate. He was working on it. And he happened to marry one of the best business structure attorneys in our state. Years ago, she set up his business in a company. He went out and invested in real estate. Now, this had come down the same, whether it was in an LLC, whether it was in a corporation. He had the real estate in his own name, which wouldn't make any difference in this case. But his wife said, don't worry about the real estate, buy insurance. Attorneys never mix or put together real estate and business. They just don't think that way. They don't care if there's a mess. They make their money cleaning up the mess. So he buys the drive-in theater at the south end of town. It happens to have a guard shack on it. A little better than the guard shack you're seeing in the picture, okay? And basically a homeless couple come to him and they want to rent the guard shack cheap. Let us live in the guard shack cheap. So he's going to do them a favor. I mean, how many of you have been bit while you've been trying to do somebody a favor, huh? So his third-party management company writes up a lease. They sign the lease. They move into the guard shack. In the meantime, the state comes along. No. Time out. Can't live in guard shack. Doesn't meet code. Get them out. The third-party management company sends them an eviction letter. They don't get out. They're literally smoking meth in bed. They burn the place down and she dies. They have now sued my friend. This came down during COVID, actually. They sued him. The state had said he had to get him out. He was in violation of the law. They took away his company. His boys were buying him out a little bit at a time. That was his retirement. The company's now gone. The wife, one of the best business structure attorneys in the state, missed a little element in the company. You're not going to miss the element, guys. I'm going to beat that one into you. I met with them after this came down. There's nothing I could do because once it strikes, you're over. You're through, guys. We have fraudulent transfer, fraudulent conveyance laws, all these laws. I can't do anything for you. So the question is, when do you do all this work? And the answer is yesterday. The LLC wizard, 6 steps, I told you that. Is it the right structure? You have a chapter on each one, and you have audio instructions where I go through, refer to the documents, and show you exactly what to do. Where are you going to put it? Which states? What's your CPA going to do? How's it going to be taxed? That ought to save you thousands of dollars a year in many cases. We're going to design the operating agreement. We're going to address the pick 2. We're going to address the taxes. You got to do those 2 things. We're going to convince the judge this is a real company. Your Honor, we intend it to be the real company. We're going to win the legal battle. And we're going to protect the assets. We're going to prevent the domino effect. We're going to protect the assets of the company from what happens to you. Are those good? Is that a good system? Yes or no, guys? This is pretty good. This is cool. Now, the system, everything comes on electronic format. You will get a hard copy, but everything's in the cloud. All of the documents, all of the discussion, everything is in the cloud. Total cost on the system is $24.99. I understand you haven't had the touchy-feely, so we've got a 30-day money-back guarantee for you. We can do that for you. I mean, there's no risk. I'm not going to stick you with anything. So you have the 30-day money-back guarantee. The advanced tax tactics, we talked about that. This is your tax shelters. This is how to drop from a $400,000 income to $150,000 AGI. We should be able to save you 20% in your taxes. Think, what did I pay in tax last year? You got that number? Take 20% of that. That's what it's worth to you. And I can pretty much guarantee that. Out on the internet, that's $7.99. I talked to you about a 2-day boot camp. In the 2-day boot camp, Ben and I are going to sit you down. We take 30 people at a time, no more. And we're going to talk about the attorney's tools. We're going to talk about the taxes. I'm going to do LLCs. I'm going to do trusts. I'll do IRAs, how you invest in IRAs. I'll do offshore. Would you like me to sum up offshore for you right now? Hector's going, okay. Hector, I'll do it for you, okay? Offshore, no and hell no. That give you it? That good? I mean, in the 1985, a guy comes to me and he's going to start a direct marketing business. He sends out pieces of mail and sells stuff. And he says, Lee, I want to make it so that if it doesn't work out, my wife and my kids are okay. They're not touched. I said, okay, we can do this. So I set up everything. And between 1985 and 1990, this guy got it up to $150 million a year. I mean, that's a good business. Now, he had to send out a lot of mail and he had to do a lot of printing and he had to do a lot of stuff. But the gross was 150 and he was doing pretty good on the profit too. August 2nd, 1990, what happened? You'll know where you were. I was in Boston. I was driving from Boston to Martha's Vineyard, and I was actually doing work for this guy. I listened to the Gulf War. The United States declared war. I came back to Boston in the Marriott down there on the Inner Harbor, and I sat and watched the war. We'd never seen a war. We'd never declared war. In my lifetime, we'd never declared war in the United States. America's buying habits changed in 48 hours. This man's business went from 600 million miles an hour to dead stop zero in 48 hours. It was over with. He had so much money out in front of him, so many people he owed money to. He owed the post office $2 million. And the post office doesn't let you get into them very deep. I mean, there were so many lawsuits that the attorney general in the state actually consolidated all of the lawsuits. And the first thing that happened in court is the wife's, the AG, he named the husband, he named the wife, he named the kids, he named the cat, he named the dog, he named the neighbors, he named everybody he could find. First thing that happened in court is the wife's attorney stands up and says, Your Honor, there is no allegation in this complaint that wife did anything wrong. We move case be dismissed with prejudice. And the attorney general looked, the judge looked at the AG's team and said, well, boys, they held about a 15-minute caucus and they came back and they said, no, Your Honor, we have no allegation that the wife did anything wrong. And the judge said, fine, case dismissed with prejudice. You can't bring it, you can't sue her again. She and her attorney got up and they walked out. There was an audible in the court. There goes the money. What I'd done is I'd set it up so she had a business. He had a business. Now, I had to have business reasons for all of this, but she had nothing to do with his business. He had nothing to do with her business. And yet every year I moved all of the profit from his business to her business. We had moved tens of millions of dollars to her business. When she got up and walked out of court, that solidified those tens of millions of dollars. The last time I saw this couple, they were in their mid-50s. They never worked again. The last time I saw them was literally in their penthouse on Kaanapali Beach that you can see there. He had taken the time to protect his family, and that's a big deal. You need to do that. Here at the Boston REIA event with Duncan, the LLC wizard, all the materials, everything on computer, 7 hours of audio instruction where I walk you through everything step by step, $24.99. Now, for the next 15 minutes, I'm going to give you a couple of bonuses. Watch. One, you will have the right to call. You will not be billed for your call, and I will answer your questions related to the materials. People say, is there a time limit on that? And the answer is it's a lifetime privilege. There's a catch. That's my lifetime, not your lifetime. And but I figure easy, most people use about 500 bucks a year. Now, I'm going to give you a $500 certificate so you can attend the boot camp. If you get the $500 certificate and you do the early bird, it becomes very cheap for you to attend the 2-day boot camp. Would you like me to sit you down for 2 days and go through all this stuff with you? I'm not exactly a boring speaker. There are worse. Ben, who does the taxes, has agreed that my students, he will do a tax review. And I'm stunned at how few people take advantage of this. You're going to call the office. We're going to give you a website. You're going to upload your taxes. You can take out your name, take out your social security number. I don't care. Ben has literally audited tens of thousands of returns. In 15 minutes sitting with you on the phone, he'll spend 15, 20, half hour with you on the phone. He can go through and say, okay, you missed that one, you missed that one, you missed that one. There's your audit. You got to fix that one. And I mean, why wouldn't you have him do that? He charges 500 bucks for it and he'll do it for you at no cost. The advanced tax tactics, all of the ways that you can figure out how to lower your taxes, $7.99. That's going to be a bonus for the next 15 minutes. So you've got what, 2,300 bucks in bonuses, plus the $24.99, $2,500 LLC Wizard. That's what, almost $5,000 in materials here. You're going to go to Legalese. That's a pun on my name. There's only one L in the middle. Legalese.com/LLC Wizard. There's the LLC Wizard. Okay. And that will take you to the order page. And for the next 15 minutes, I'm going to make everything available to you. This is a single total package price, okay? $14.99. And I'm going to tell you how to make the $14.99 tax deductible. You're in a 30% tax bracket, so you're out of pockets, what, under $1,000? So you get everything, $14.99, take the deduction. You might as well have the IRS start helping you pay for stuff. I'll show you exactly how to do that. So go to legalese.com/LLC Wizard and pick that up now. Total cost $14.99. I can answer a couple of questions for you, or it's after 9, Duncan. I can kiss them all goodnight and we can go to bed, whatever you want.
Lee, it's up to you. If you look in the
I'm
chat,
not kissing Hector. I just want you to know that.
all right.
Hector, you asked a bunch of questions. Did I answer your questions in the presentation? I read through them. I think I answered most of them. Anyway,
Yeah, you can unmute yourself if I can find you here. Let me just get up to participants.
we don't want Hector to unmute himself. The shine would blow us away off the top.
All righty. I think Hector is unmuted actually. So yeah, is there
Yeah,
anything
he
else,
is.
Hector?
Actually, Hector, you ever had a colonoscopy?
No, sir, I have not. Actually, no, no, I haven't.
The clean out's bad. You all know that, right? You've had your colonoscopies. I had one it's been almost a year now.
Uh-huh.
And they put you out so that you don't know what's going on. I wake up in the recovery room and there are all these people standing around me.
Mm.
And I'm groggy. I don't know what's going on. And it freaks me out because all these people are looking at me. And finally, it dawned on me. Do you know how rare it is to see a lawyer that's not full of shit? Anyway,
I think I want to go to your boot camp. I think
you want to go to the boot camp's fun. We have fun with it.
I think it
So,
would have a lot of fun. Yeah.
Lee, we do have Dominic Baresi. He says, my
Dominic has a
accountant.
question.
Yeah, he made a statement. That says, my accountant is terrified. My wife and I definitely qualify for reps and all kinds of other things, and he just won't do it. I need help. You lose step up in basis if hold in court too, right?
the corporation or the LLC has to take the step up, the basis that you have, it carries the basis over. The only time you get a step up in basis is when you buy a new piece of property, then that's the value. Or when you die. When you die, everything is taxed, but it gets a step up in basis in your heirs' hands. So you bought the house for 100,000, it's now worth 400,000. When you die, the kids get it at 400, they sell it, they have zero capital gains or anything.
Okay. And then Lee, why would you find that some accountants are terrified or they don't want to do this stuff?
Uh, because they don't know how to deal with the IRS. Uh, we're going to have you give us a power of attorney. Is your IRS or your accountant guy, does he have a power of attorney with the IRS for you? We can go into the computers of the IRS. We can see everything about you. I don't bother saving my 1099s or any of that crap because we don't file for me until later in the year. We have until October 15th, right? I have filed. I filed probably end of August. But um, with the power of attorney, each company is required to send the 1099, the 1099-R, the 1099-I, all of that crap into the IRS, right?
Mhm.
Well, we can see all of that. We can match up what the IRS has and just fill out our tax return based upon what the IRS has. So we know that the IRS isn't going to pull an audit on us later because we didn't miss one of the 1099s that had been reported to the IRS. That's a major. It's not a big deal on an audit, but
It
they're
happens.
afraid of liability from the lawyers if they screw up. They're afraid of, and that's why all they'll do is plug your numbers in the computer and have it spit out the tax. They're afraid of the audit. They don't know how to handle an audit. We handle audits for people all the time. In fact, the first case I ever gave to Ben was a friend of mine had paid over $500,000 in lawyers. The IRS said he owed a million something in taxes, and the lawyers had come up totally blank. And it was to the point where the IRS says you pay it up in 2 weeks or we start taking everything away from you and you go to jail. And I said, Ben, can you help this guy? Within 2 weeks, Ben had whittled it down to where the guy owed about $180,000 and settled the case.
Wow.
And
Awesome.
not a lot. There's a guy in Utah and he advertises that he solves your IRS tax problems. Anything that requires any knowledge, he brings to us and we get half of it.
Gotcha. Well, guys, we've gone over by 15 minutes. We've kept Lee over time for today. So, Lee, I just want to do thank you. It's very important when you're starting that you set up yourself in the correct foundation to be successful.
Well, you guys
So
are all set
the
up. Go back and review it and make sure you bring it up to snuff.
There you go. So Lee's got everything for you. Been around a long time, so he knows his stuff. So it's right there, though, in the last couple seconds here, legalese.com/LLC wizard, and pick it up while you can. It's a great deal. So Lee, once again, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming back to
Thank you,
accommodate our
Duncan.
technical itch.
Was good to actually pull it off this month.
Yeah, it was. I appreciate you, Lee. Thank you very much.
No, it's great to be with you, and I hope you do well. You can get
Yeah,
better.
and everybody stuck on to the very end, so that's a big compliment to you.
They did?
Yeah,
Yeah, we actually have everybody still here.
yeah, guys. So
Uh,
thank you very much.
so
Appreciate it.
no more questions. Let's go
No,
home.
no questions.
Hey, you
All
guys
right,
all have a
guys.
good night.
Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Lee.